Hey everybody, what's going on? iPenguinPat here, and today we're going to talk about this new announcement that just came out, how to ensure your online safety. And this is a really interesting three-part announcement because there is a lot of potential good that could come from this announcement, and there is a lot of potential bad that could come from this announcement. So let's go through the three parts real quick, and then we'll talk about why each part is important and relevant. So the first part is account and password security. And basically what this section is saying is don't share your account info with anyone. Whether it is a guildmate that you trust or not, you just should not be sharing your account information. And as a general statement, that makes perfect sense. I don't see anything negative about this announcement. The next thing is revealing your personal information. And again, this is another situation where inno is looking out for your safety. Don't share things like your real name, your birthday, your address, and other sensitive information. In fact, that information could be used to steal your account. So definitely do not give that information to anyone because that could definitely lead to negative effects. And also that protects you from harassment and other things like that. Obviously, if, say, somebody just goes crazy and sideways and starts stalking you or something weird like that, you just don't want to deal with that. So that is a really great announcement. And then the last one, which is in a way the most curious, is avoid use of third-party software. And in particular, this has my interest because of the use of third-party software that has become so popular over the last year or two, like FOE Helper or FOE Info, Forge Commander. Obviously, there are other types of software, like the FOE Smart Scripts that recently got banned, which was breaking the rules left and right. But not all third-party software breaks the rules. So with that said, let's look at the rules for a second, and then we can talk about how and why these three things are actually a really big deal. Okay, so let's look at the rules and see how these are all applicable. Now, obviously, the one account per player rule covers a large amount of what was covered in the ensuring your safety. You're not allowed to have multiple accounts per world. You're not allowed to control other players' accounts. You're not allowed to ask for their accounts. And at first glance, that seems silly because you might think, well, what does it matter if I log onto my friend's account and do Guild Expedition or do a few Battlegrounds fights or whatever? What's the harm in that? And the problem is that there is a really slippery slope of where this can go. You go from this scenario here where somebody just has innocent intentions, and then you end up here where some jackass has 4 accounts and they're running macros to fight with 4 different accounts on a sector in Battlegrounds. And it's easy to see how that could be ridiculously unfair because it's making it so that one player is being able to eat up 4 times the attrition. That also doesn't count all of the other types of things that can be done in guild versus guild. There are ways that having ghost guilds, which means like an extra guild, could end up working to their favor. And the other thing is that, it's a coverage thing. So sometimes it's not even alts that are the issue. Sometimes it is just straight shared accounts. It could literally be 2 separate people playing multiple accounts for each other. And that provides an unfair advantage because the whole point of this is that players are supposed to be online to do these things. And if you're not online to do them, then, it's unfair if somebody else is doing it for you. So I am very hopeful that this account password and security issue is really not only talking and here to protect against this account sharing, which is really awful, and push accounts. Here down in the rules we have pushing, which is also against the rules. And basically what that is an account that is literally there just to help push other accounts along without trying to do anything else in the game. And you see this all the time. You see players who have John Doe 1, John Doe 2, John Doe 3, and they just help push the accounts. And it's been really disappointing at how passive inno has been at pursuing push accounts and players that are sharing accounts when we, as players, we know 100% without a doubt that this is happening. Okay, and then of course the last aspect of this that comes up is the transfer of accounts and diamonds. And in particular, you see that accounts are being sold on a regular basis now, especially high-end accounts. When players retire, a lot of times other players will offer to buy that account from them, and or they will go to websites and sell these accounts and things like that, and that's against the rules. And that's also, again, that leads to the same type of stuff I was talking about earlier, where you have one account pushing another account, or an alt account that is acting as a spy against other guilds, or providing additional assistance, where they wouldn't be able to get that without playing more than one account. It's entirely cheating. It's entirely unfair. So I am extremely, extremely hopeful that we will see Inno cracking down on this account sharing and the alts and that type of thing, because that has been so toxic to the game in so many ways. The second part of this announcement, it's really the third bullet point, but it's kind of the second part. I see these as two parts, is the avoid the use of third-party software. And this has so many implications and is really crazy. Now, if they're talking about not having macros and scripts and stuff like that, obviously I am completely on board with that. Here, in the rules, number 6, it clearly says that you cannot have bots, you cannot have scripts, you cannot have things that are automatically collecting resources, minimizing your clicks, things like that, right? So I completely am on board with cracking down on this third-party software, and hopefully this is a sign, hopefully this is a warning shot of Inno basically telling players, we are about to start cracking down on cheaters. I don't know if that's the case. I don't know if that's what this announcement means, but I certainly hope that's what this means. What I hope this does not mean is that they're going to go after the extensions that are making the game a more fun game to play without giving an unfair advantage. So let's look at the Chrome web store and look at the extensions that are there. Now, FOE Power Tools is an extension that is straight up cheating, right? This has an automated tool that basically gives you a list of players in your neighborhood or in your friends list or whatever that you can snipe for profit. And that was cheating. And I think this had some kind of GVG siege announcement, where if somebody sieged one of your sectors, it would tell you about that. So, that I totally understand, and by all means, the people using that should get banned, and banned heavily. If you remember my video before of the FOE smart scripts, anybody using that should get permabanned. They shouldn't, like, that website literally said all over it that it was cheating. As a quick reminder, the FOE smart script that I'm talking about was this extension here, where it allowed players to fight 2 fights per second and negotiate at 1 negotiation per second, and did all kinds of other ridiculous, crazy cheating that is it was insane if you saw it in action, right? And the developer didn't even try to hide that it was cheating. Literally, in the message that they sent, the second sentence that they said was, "This is cheating." In my opinion, anyone caught using this script absolutely should have been permabanned with no appeal process, right? I mean, they knew going in that what they were doing was completely and utterly cheating, and they still did it anyway. So with that said, going back to this announcement, I am 100% on board with Inno cracking down on this particular type of script, this type of thing, because this needs to happen. That was a major plague to the game and made the game completely unfun to play when you're going up against people who were using those types of cheats, right? Totally against the rules. Now, if they're talking about going after some of these other scripts like FOE Info, FOE Helper, and Forge Commander, I am not really on board with that. These are extensions that make this game considerably more fun to play and dramatically increase the quality of life of players. For example, FOE Helper has over 100,000 users, and I know the developers, several of the developers of FOE Helper. I've talked with them extensively. We've talked about the cheating problems. We've talked about how FOE Helper makes specific efforts to remove things from their toolset that could have potentially been considered cheating. They really have keeping the rules in mind with everything that they add to this. So going after them would be horrible. And if you look at the tool set of the things that FOE Helper provides, it's actually, some of these things are really nice to have, right? Like this FOE, or this building efficiency. This is basically like a version of the spreadsheet of madness right here in your city. Like you can look and see how efficient the buildings are in your city just based off of parameters that you set, right? You can get stuff about like how many forge points you're making per day, just so that you have an idea of what you're making. Because some of that stuff's hard to keep track. If you're doing thousands of fights in a day, there's no way, heck, even hundreds of fights, dozens of fights, you're not going to be able to keep track of the type of rewards that you get from battlegrounds or from your HC or your space carrier or any of those things. Like you absolutely benefit from having that type of information, right? It's useful, but it's not cheating. Things like some calculations on how many forge points to add to your building to make it lockable. That's not adding an unfair advantage. That's something that you can just sit down with the calculator and do. It's just simply a quality of life, right? That's not telling you how to go snipe all these buildings. It's literally just making your life easier and saving you from having to spend a bunch of extra time doing calculations instead of playing the actual game, right? And actually, some of the other things that it does, like military unit overview, where it gives you the full list of your units, which is kind of nice, right? Like when you come over here and you try to look at your units in the you can't even see all of them, right? So that provides you a nice way of being able to see all your units. That is a nice quality of life feature. That's not cheating, right? That's not unfair advantage. That's just making the game more fun. And this is probably my favorite feature in all of FOE Helper, which is a 2D view of your city where you can see how your roads laid out. You can see the efficiency of your buildings, where your squares are, where you have open squares. Heck, you can even export this out into a city planner, which makes city planning significantly better. Here you can see once you've exported your city, you can also import it into their website, and then from here you can move buildings around and plan. And even though you have some of the freedom to do this with the reconstruction mode, there are a lot of things about this that are actually really handy, like being able to overlap buildings, being able to add extra buildings to your city that you didn't already have. If you didn't already have, say, let's go a House of Horrors, right? Now you can add that House of Horrors in and plan where that should go. Whereas if you were in reconstruction mode, you couldn't do that. You wouldn't have that as an option. So this is a really nice benefit for players that Inno hasn't offered, and it's a great extension. It's a great feature. Not all players will use it, but the players that do use it absolutely love having that as an available option to them. This gives us lists of what sort of selection kits are available and set pieces are available, which is extremely useful when you are trying to plan out what to go for in an event and how many of each type of piece that you need. And that's not something that Inno offers. And don't get me wrong, being able to search the inventory now is helpful, but this won't let you search the cherry set, right? Like if I want to see how many pieces of a cherry set do I have, I can't just say cherry and then know how many sets, how many pieces, or spring set if you want to call it the spring set, right? See, I can't check that out. But with Helper, I can do that. I can see how many pieces of the spring set I have. That's a really nice feature to have. And Inno doesn't want to put that in. Inno can't even finish with the regular bugs that they have to deal with. So why not allow a third party to offer these type of features that make the game more fun? And lastly, keeping track of statistics. And this is kind of a big deal. It is a lot of work to keep track of how many units you have, or how many goods your guild has, or things like that, right? And as a player, it would be completely impractical to keep track of your goods cost and how many units you're fluctuating and all that. There's literally no way to do that manually. It would take so much time, you wouldn't be able to play the game. So these are all benefits that are helping Forge of Empires to grow as a game, helping players to be more competitive as players, helping them to enjoy the game. And to take away something like this would be hurting the players, and none of this is cheating, right? Like none of this is giving an unfair advantage that allows players to beat other guilds because they don't have it. All it's doing is improving the quality of life and making the game more fun. Another extension that I haven't really talked about much is Forge Commander. Now, you don't even actually have to have Forge Commander as an extension to use this tool. And this is actually my favorite research tool for learning about players, because not only does this tool tell you things like their points and their battles and all that, and you can do searching and stuff, but you can do other neat things too. Like you can see that this jerk renamed himself to try to look like me and impersonate me for a while before getting his name returned because he's friends with the mods, right? So here you can see that there are a lot of uses for being able to have this, and this isn't cheating, right? It's neat to see how many player points a guild has, or how many battles and things like that. That's all useful, right? That's all things that that players benefit from, but it's not cheating, right? It's not taking advantage of other players or anything like that. So removing this type of thing from the game would not help to benefit players. So I will say, when I first saw this announcement, I just thought it was kind of a ho-hum, who cares? But the more I thought about it, the more I realized that there are some really big implications about this. So what do you think? Do you think this is signs that Inno is going to start cracking down on people who are sharing accounts and making alts and push accounts and things like that? Do you think this means that Inno is going to crack down on the macro users and things like that? Or do you think it's going to go the other way? We're going to start having the third-party extensions like Helper and Info and Commander start getting players banned, and we're going to continue to see the same type of account selling, account sharing, push accounts that we've seen all before. If you found this video interesting at all, please like and subscribe, and I will catch you in the next video.